Ravi, I've noticed from your CV that you have an interesting and diverse career. I'd like to discuss some of the highlights of your career and perhaps you can share some advice for some of our younger professionals out there. You're a mathematician and a statistician by training. Why did you study this?
Well, to be honest, there wasn't a great grand plan behind my thinking. I just simply knew I enjoyed mathematics from school. Um, I went to school at a point in time, pre-democracy, so where the education system was still very unequal, and the amount of information we had on careers back then was very limited. The only real careers we knew about was, being a doctor, a lawyer, etc. I just knew I didn't want to be any of those, so I just decided to study what I enjoyed.
You have spent over 20 years in banking and financial services. How did you end up in that industry?
Well, once again, I think this was an accident. During my honors year at university, in the field of statistics, we covered a new and emerging field called advanced mathematics or finance. And basically, what this field entailed, it used advanced statistical and mathematical concepts like geometric Brownian motion, etc., and applied it to complex financial product pricing and to the field of risk management, to techniques like earnings at risk, value at risk, etc. Now, what I didn't know at the time was that banks were looking for people from the disciplines of mathematics, physics, etc., to come into their teams because I think they needed the complex quantitative techniques which were taught in these fields, and they really needed it for their businesses. So one might ask, a bank which has got so many chartered accountants, why would they need this? I only realized it a bit later on in my career that while a lot of people think of chartered accountants as being very numeric, to be honest with you, they are compared to the average. However, the quantitative disciplines used by chartered accountants are very simplistic compared to that used by mathematicians, engineers, physicists. So the time banks needed that skill, I happened to have been interviewed by the head of risk for the First Rand Group, and I got hired as a quantitative analyst there.
I see you spent some time in London and Switzerland in your early career and even had an article published offshore. Tell me more about this.
Yes, that was a very exciting and prolific period in my career. I was in my early 20s, and I got to use my quantitative skills in the field of new business development. So in London, I got to work on a foreign exchange arbitrage fund, which I helped set up. And in Lyon, Switzerland, I got to work on a convertible bond arbitrage fund. Both of these were very exciting, cutting edge initiatives. And for me, it was also gave me a view of what the global world was like. I think up to that point in time, my experience had been limited to South Africa. This was definitely an eye-opening experience to me, and I think to this day, my first publication, which happened in a famous London fixed income magazine, is a source of pride for me today. It actually told me that the kind of work I did was recognized on a global perspective. I can't remember, I know I was in my early 20s when this opportunities occurred, and for me, it was an important turning point in my career. It actually made me realize that sitting across from a spreadsheet, crunching figures was not the thing which excited me the most. I needed to see my work translate into new business or exciting new initiatives. So it actually set the tone and direction for the rest of my career.
So, how did you end up in the field of strategy?
I think by this point in time in my career, I'd worked on many diverse fields. So I worked in complex trading environments, complex deal structuring environments, and I think there was an organization which actually realized that I had a very diverse set of skills. And I think from their perspective, they saw that the best use of my skills would be probably from a broad perspective. And so that is how I ended up in the field of strategy. So in short, I did not study strategy. I did not go through the management consulting fields. However, I think this has given me an advantage in the field of strategy. Normally, if you've gone through the field of management consulting, you normally work on strategy analysis. From my side, I've worked on not only analysis, I also had significant experience in the execution of strategy and dealing with some of the complex managerial and operational issues that you might come across in the successful execution of strategy.
Ravi, why did you leave not only banking but the corporate world and join national parliament? And then what are some of the key differences between parliament and a corporate?
Sure, I think to answer your first question, it was a convergence of two things. So, firstly, I was at that point in my career where I was looking to do something different. I think I'd operationalized strategy where I was. And for a strategist like me, it's always exciting to do new things. So, I think it started off from the fact that I was looking to do something different. And then I so happened to get a phone call from somebody saying they were the head of HR for National Parliament. Now, you can imagine when I was first called, I was a bit confused by this because I think my understanding of Parliament was you needed to be a politician to be there. However, first explained to me this role about what it requires to be the head of strategy for Parliament, what the parliamentary administration was, how it ran like an organization. And to be honest, it did interest me significantly. I've always been one of those people who looks at value add and the difference that I can make. And when the role was described to me, and when I was given details of the role, it really did tick a number of boxes for me, and it did appeal to me. And also, in going there, it was a 5-year contract, so it was a chance to experience and do something completely different, which I went for. And I think your second question about what is different between National Parliament and, let us say, a corporate or a financial services company. Well, let me state the obvious ones. First of all, at National Parliament, you don't have a profit motive, so you are not chasing money. However, you have quite a complex constitutional mandate that you need to do. So, to be perfectly honest, I think strategy at a national parliament is far more complex and involves a lot more things. Also, the stakeholder management environment at national parliament is completely and utterly different from that of a corporate. First of all, you're dealing with multiple political parties, multiple citizen groups, all with very diverse sets of opinions and different agendas. You also are dealing with a complicated unionized environment. So the challenges that you deal with at a national parliament, particularly from a stakeholder management point of view, especially from the complex constitutional mandate, makes it a lot more complex and diverse. I think it really required an expansion of my skill base in a few critical dimensions.
What advice would you give to students and young professionals in their career?
Well, I've got 3 pieces of advice. Firstly, pursue that which interests you and that which challenges you. Don't let others put you into a box. Don't let the limited imagination of others determine what you do. And number 3, seek to make a difference and to make an impact. Don't pursue money.
So, Ravi, where to from here in terms of your career?
Well, my contract at National Parliament does end this year. There are quite a few opportunities open to me. I have a tendency to prefer fast-paced industries which are constantly evolving. That's what interests me the most and where I believe I can make the most difference and impact. In those kind of industries, a lot of change management is required, and I believe that it's a core competency of mine. I'm typically looking at group strategy roles in these industries or a group MD role. I'm also open to board positions of companies that I believe in, where I believe their strategy is sound and does interest me.
Thank you for your time.